Welcome back to the State of Flux podcast. I am Rich Nardo, and I am super excited for you guys to check out this episode. Former NHL star and Flux 88 partner Mikhail Grabovski joined us for an awesome conversation that covered everything from youth sports to preparedness and mental health, and even how AI is changing coaching and analytics. Mikhail had an incredible career for the Leafs, Canadiens, Capitals, and my New York Islanders. He led all Eastern Conference rookies in scoring for the 2008-2009 season. He's the highest scoring NHL player ever from Belarus, and since retiring, he's gone on to an equally impressive career as an entrepreneur and coach. Now, you might have noticed I said joined us instead of me, and that's because my partner Blake Armstrong also sat in as a co-host. Blake is someone that I'm very thankful to have in my life and someone I consider a mentor, which is kind of weird to say because we're basically the same age. But between Blake's insight and that of a bona fide hockey legend in Grabo, this interview came out great. Anyways, I'll stop blabbing on here with this intro and get you guys straight into the conversation. Hope you find it as insightful as I did.
Are you ready?
Speaking of fun, Blake said you're a big rock and roll fan.
Well, I growing up, Dad always listened, and it's always good tune in my house, you know.
Nice. What are some of your favorite bands?
Well, I growing up listened like my dad music, so it's like usually it's like Rolling Stones, Led Zeppelin, AC/DC's come later. I like Queen is one of the favorite too, but Guns N' Roses. And you get older, you get more like you introduce like Metallica or Offspring, like kind of my age bands. But I listen everything but top three, it's Led Zeppelin, Rolling Stones, and AC/DC. So that's.
Is that what you're listening to when you're training or like working or anything like that?
Yeah, usually yes. Usually like when I grew up, I listened to Led Zeppelin before I go to every hockey game. So it's like they have this like a whole lot of love to the song, and I specifically stopped this in the moment when he started playing guitar, and I'm okay. I'm ready to go play. So
Nice.
Lots of like I watch like everybody probably know the Rocky movie, so it's one of the songs from there. Like I was always playing KHL Russian League, and this the Eyes of the Tiger. This all that song this is playing a stadium before the game. So I remember these good moments.
In the NHL today, they talk a lot about who gets the aux cable in the locker room and which players DJ in the locker room. Back in your day on the Leafs, was that something that was happening where, one player would take over DJing for the game or for the season or until people decided that they've had enough?
Like I always have my own headphones. But I remember listening to what Diana Fanyuk puts kind of songs, and I want to go away from the room for make sure I'm ready to play with my music. So his music is not bad, but it's not make you ready, listen to sometimes Rihanna. It's a good singer, but it's not the music I want to listen before I go to the ice,
Doesn't have the Zeppelin effect for you.
Yeah, but then my music, I switched during my life. I switched to lots of electronic music. So I prefer before the games. And my last 5 years in the career, I listen lots of club music, house music, electronic, trance music, all this Siesta, Burn, all that guys.
And you're sharing all that music with your kids as well?
I share all the time, but they still like kind of North American pop culture. So
I know all your kids are athletes, doing their own things. When you're driving one of your kids to, Lily to figure skating or Jag or Charlie to soccer or hockey, who's controlling what's being listened to in the car ride over? What are they listening to get pumped up? Does dad have control, or are the kids playing T-Swift?
Usually when I'm in the mood, I put some my music, but usually I let them pick what they listen. And I know that my daughter, she's really big fan of the new music, Drake and that kind of stuff. And I let her say no, today let's change it. I give you my music for today, and she's okay. Let's listen to your music. My other sons, they usually easy go, and they don't really pick. They listen what I listen, and Jagger like to listen to rap. He think it's a rap, but he listen to Drake. For me, it's a rapper, or it's not really rap. So I like more go deeper to rap. Listen more Eminem songs and kind of that style, 50 Cent, or this is more hard rap. I say listen this one, don't listen that. And he liked it. Then he's just used it and he played in his own room in a dressing room.
Yeah, it's interesting that talking about the fact that your kids are such talented athletes. One thing that I see, I have 4 nephews and they're all super talented athletes. They all play soccer. One of my nephews is now doing really well playing rugby as well for his high school. And one of the things that blows my mind is when I was playing sports in high school, the difference between the coaching and the amount of knowledge that is applied to youth athletics now, as opposed to when I was a kid, is insane. So I would love to know from you, especially since you obviously played at the highest level and you trained so hard to get there. What are the big differences that you see in the way your kids are approaching athletics and the knowledge that their coaches are giving them as opposed to when you were growing up?
Well, I think this now everything has changed. It's not like go outside and play, like enjoy, right? So I had this moment when I go play myself hockey and soccer and go to the pond and play there. Now kids they don't do that anymore. Like it's really rare. Only if you live like I don't know back in Belarus, the people live in the downtown. They had like some arenas. They go meet each other. But now it's here. It's changed a little bit perspective. So now I needs to take them to the soccer, to the basketball, to the tennis. It's a bunch of driving. So that's what's changed a lot. And I think that's more forcing the kids to do something than themselves join. And I think when the kids come to the practices, I think the coaches needs to more let them sometimes enjoy then they have fun, like play some different games and don't be boring to this drills over and over. Like figure out something to teach them. Like it's just like go in the street play soccer, who play hockey, something like this. But I try bring my kids to the places where the outside somebody play and say let's go, let's do it. But usually most of the times happen on vacation. So we go to Greece this summer and we like play in the beach soccer like non-stop, morning to the evening. And this kind of moments, I think, the best for kids. That's why we need like parents needs to find this moments where the kids can play with somebody else just without practicing. Because practice make them boring and it's just not to introduce them these skills what they're gonna use and when they play real pro sport. That's why like so many Brazilian and Argentinian players they grow in the street. And here it's I think when I live in US, they had lots of places when you actually can go and play with people. New York really like for the town, I think for me. Like I remember Long Island, everybody plays soccer, everybody plays sports. Like I feel like in Toronto is a little different, more like close, more like just section. Go play hockey and do camps, but no outside.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think a lot of intangible skills you get as a player comes from that kind of street hockey, street basketball, that type of thing, playing soccer on the beach. It's like that's when you can kind of exercise being a little bit more creative as a player, be a little bit less like stress-free. You mentioned soccer a bunch there. Are you a big soccer fan?
Yeah, I do love soccer. And now I feel like it's switched a little bit because NHL season start. But in the summertime, I only like soccer. My kids watch the YouTube, call it stupid YouTube soccer channel.
Do you follow the EPL at all? What leagues do you follow?
A little bit, but now it's intention completely gone because of the hockey start. In the summertime, we like a little bit look at that excitement about Messi come to Florida, play there, Miami. And I think coming up, world champions in Canada and the US, that will be like another boost for the soccer interest for my kids and me as well.
That's fun. I'm a big soccer fan. I'm a big Liverpool fan. So
I buy my son the Liverpool jersey. Actually needs to go look where's that. I think he lost it already somewhere.
Nice. Yeah. Did you get a player? You get Salah? Who'd you get?
No, we just had straight like a Liverpool jerseys. No, without any names.
So I don't get jerseys anymore as a fan with players on it because I decided I was bad luck to whatever player it was. Like every time as a kid, like growing up, like I would buy a jersey and the player would get hurt or traded immediately. And that's like such a big thing, obviously, in sports is superstition. Did you have any superstitions as a player? What was your like routine like before game and everything?
Probably like tape my stick always like same way. Maybe don't we had like this rule never like saw anything in New Jersey if you something broken is never like fix it. I'm not much superstition. I believe in my work and it's kind of that stuff.
Yeah, and Blake mentioned too that you're very much a planner. You're into like meticulous detailing and take really solid notes and being prepared for everything you do. Were you like that as a kid? Is that something that developed as you got into adulthood?
I think I always like this. I think I always have like some notebook or write it down some game situations, some play, some lineup. Even when I kid, I remember I make like so many drawers, the like game plan, like how we need to score the goals, what's like the play we should do, like a bunch of notebooks full of this like information. Like, and then I grew up, like I started doing again and more like understand why I'm doing this and I keep doing it until like my retirement. Like every year I have new notebook and make a plan, make a goal, like what I need to do better. And after every game, I give points for myself, like if we play good, if we play bad. I think that's motivate me, and especially like when I don't score in a while, Like I keep write it down like by pen, like what direction I need to go today, how to score, and do like 100 times the lines to the net. And so it works sometimes. Put you in the right, in the right brain thoughts or.
And I think, I've seen enough of the things that you do and the preparedness you have. A lot of that ties into work ethic. And I think if you're looking at players today, you've obviously played at the most elite level and you've coached at a super elite level. What do you think are, the keys to someone making it? I know you're a kids coach these days, coaching your young son's team. If you were talking to a parent about like, here are the things that, really matter if your kid's going to have a shot at making it. What do you think are those, 3 or 4 traits or attributes that someone has to have a shot at making it?
I think number one, you need to love what you do. I think this is most important in all my career. Like I love play hockey. Like I love go outside and shoot the pucks. Like I love go to the practices and have fun with the kids. I think this comparedness inside me is not because I just want to like win. It's just because I love the game. I think these days kids, they have like everything. Like they had like not just sport. They had like TV. They had like go to party. Like all this like they have focuses different directions. I think the parents needs to really, if they want to keep focusing one stuff, like example, be a good hockey player, he needs to focus on hockey, make sure like he's watch hockey in home, like somehow have hockey cars, this excitement about this team origins, like, the kids know the hockey players, so they learn all about NHL teams. So my son, like he's 4 last year and he's know all NHL teams because he buy hockey cards. So if you make this environment around like your kids love hockey, so I think this is a good way to grow them to be a professional one.
And it's a very different game, but one thing that's come to the forefront a lot more than back in your playing days is the whole idea of mental health and taking care of that side of the game. Is that something you're seeing already looking at in the youth game, or is that something players are not kind of getting into until they get a little bit older?
I think mental is important since like when you the little kid, and I think parents needs to always ask the question themselves, what are you doing wrong to your kid? Then kid is upset or kid crying or kid like don't have a good result. I think that's all mental, even for parents. The parents needs to ask themselves the question, what I'm doing wrong for my kid or what I need to do better. I had lots of like situation with my kids, but every day, like I have like rule of 24 hours and next day I wake up, I think, oh, like I need to change something. I need to switch like this subject or like make them read book in the atmosphere where they will enjoy to read the books. And then is when you grow up, for sure you need to care about your mental health and preparation. And like I say, our world is changed now. So much information, so much like short videos and short cuts. So the kids is different and we're going to be different already. So number one, I think focus like attention to something what you do. It's a critical. So I think that's what we need to think about. It's not even more like mental health. It's something about like more attention to focus what you do. That's where the mental problems. I think it's came where it's like lots of different direction and the person struggling. So the same as me. Like I struggle like every day because I had like so much stuff going on in my life. So I have a mental problems because of that. So like I need a breaks. I need a time where it's like you actually go and enjoy yourself, drink coffee, and you don't need to rush anywhere. So.
And tying back to that kind of mental health angle too. So you're a big planner. Obviously, preparedness is so important to success, but it also could have its own mental health challenges. So did you ever come into situations where maybe like you were overthinking, where you kind of cross over from being prepared to kind of it almost was hurting you more than it was helping because you were overthinking everything as opposed to just making sure you're prepared?
Yeah, lots of people tell me that too, like during my career, and they like some guys who live in a room with me, and they look at me like, "What are you doing every day? Why are you like write down this notebook?" And I'm like, look at them and say, "I just enjoy do that stuff." And then I'm more overthinking. Like I think about other stuff, about like it's not overthinking. I'm more upset. Like I get myself upset if I lose, if I don't score, I get upset more. Bring the back on memory now, and I think every time when I actually like focus and prepare myself and write it down everything what I need, I have the most successful years. Like all my best year when I score like 29 goals. That year, like every single day, I write down like my goal for today for the game, what I need to do to make myself better. And I think this is what's the word it's called, consistency. It's a key. It's a key about like what you do. And I don't think I ever overthink. Maybe, but usually my problem is to get upset, like hold these up problems for a long time. I can get out. So I buy this good book. It's Seven Habits of Successful Person, or whatever it's called. And I really struggle in Long Island when I play. And I think that book a lot helped me, like to manage my play, control my emotions, because it's a mess there. That year I have a concussion. I had like problem with the coaches. I think my all injuries came from to worry too much about why they don't like me, why I don't play much enough. And we go on the ice and prepare yourself. That's where you have injuries. So I think my all injuries came from more like upsetness. My focus is gone. But if you write down and put like everything in a book, and you put your brain in the right direction, you never have a problem. So for me, my problem is not consistency. If I lose consistency, then I had like this upsetness, angriness, like that. That's my problem. Yeah.
Talk about keeping your emotions in check and the consistency. So obviously you had some adversity in your career. In those situations, how do you keep yourself motivated, like manage yourself so that, even when you're feeling upset or angry or disappointed in yourself and the situation, like how do you get yourself to still get up the next day and put the work in that you need to overcome what you're going through?
Well, that's what I learned about this 7 habits. Like it's like you control what you can control. You make a plan. Like if you play like in the ice 3 minutes of the game, or play 5 minutes of the game, you control this 5 minutes. What you can do the best. If you don't like who you play in the line, right? So you still find a way to learn about them, what they can like help, how they can help you. Go talk to them what to do and manage that what you can control. I think that's what they help me. But it's not easy. Like I say, you can control this, like you can think that way like for months, like for 2 months, but then it's gone. So it's like you again get frustrated, you get upset, like you stop like thinking about what everybody else think about you, like why you don't playing. Like for me, it's more like say consistency and go back to this, motivation to why are you doing this stuff? Like you want to be like good hockey player, you want to win Stanley Cups. I always put like my goal, like play NHL. Like this is my dream when I grow up. So play NHL. Like I never put the goal win Stanley Cup because this is too far, I think, for me. So I always wants to just play in NHL, and I think this is dream come true. But then I come back and start putting more goals for myself, like win Stanley Cup. What I need to do for doing that stuff. What year? So I think my career is a successful career for me. I think what I can change, probably I will change thinking. I will train my brain more, be soft, be more like the analyze better. Yeah, don't be angry. And it's just sometimes I have a bad luck. Injury is common. Now my job to teach my kids to be control emotions and
How do you approach that? How do you try to get that across to your kids?
I think like I try to talk to them like what they need to do better for the game. So I tell my son like what you need to do. Look, you lose all your face off. What you need to do to win the face off. You make one play, then you stop moving. So what you need to do for thinking doing that, and I maybe create some practice drill. Then we're doing some quick thinking drill, more by example and just exercise and practice and how you make yourself better. But I think the key too for me all my life, I focus on what I can do the best. Like if I a good skater, I should use this like be a good skater. Like I'm not gonna teach myself like be like powerful skater or whatever, but I'm like gliding. Like I like more like change directions. That's my key. I don't have a like best shot, so I use the positions where I need to be to have a like even shot. We don't try like change too much like your bad style what you have. Try like a little bit help it, but work in your good style what you can do. And I try to tell my kids exactly the same.
And when you're coaching your kids, obviously there's some really famous athlete parents out there, whether it's Tiger Woods' dad Earl or the Williams sisters' dad Richard, or even I was watching the new David Beckham documentary, and he was talking about how, his dad was really hard on him, and talk a little bit about what it was like when you were growing up chasing your dream and what your dad's involvement was. And then just as a coach and as a professional athlete, were all of the peers in your locker room beside you, like were most people pushed pretty hard by their parents to be able to put in the work? Because obviously you talked a lot about you had the passion, so it wasn't about the work as much. You were working because you loved it. But when you look across teammates and the players, is that a pretty common thread that most players that have made it, where parents or mom or dad gave them a pretty good kick in the pants to help them work hard?
You know what? I don't know, like how to. I always think myself, analyze all players who made it. Like, what's parents? Yeah, we had like example where it's like the parents like hard to them, but maybe some example when parents actually is not hard. I have like Nikolai Kulemin, the player who played with me in Maple Leaf. So his parents not involved at all in his career. So he's did himself everything. So I think it depends of the person, depends of the genes what you have, like like situation. So my dad is always, I say, hard on me, but he make me love hockey. So he's never like take hockey away from me, and I always go to practice no matter what, like, and make me enjoy like this tournaments. He write it down all goals, how many I score. He have notebooks like about everything. Maybe that's came to me to write notebooks because he did it all the time. Parents can be hard. Probably yes. Probably all successful people. Most of them have like hard parents who really dedicated. And looking the parents now, I think it's not bad that the dad have a dream to make his son like be NHL player. I think that's the right things to do. Sometimes his parents get super hard, don't know what to do. Maybe that players has never made it. We only find out when the actual players made it, right? Few kids made it, like three kids play NHL now. So it's a better example to ask them like what they do, what did that do for them. So I don't know what did he do like to make them. It's crazy. Like when three kids play NHL, it's Stahl brothers too. So for sure it's something there about the parenting, and I love the game.
Grabo, when you're looking at coaching in youth hockey, obviously coaching in 5 and 6 year olds, it's a very different time because it's so early in their development stage as players and as athletes. What do you think are the most important things as a coach when you're coaching kids that age?
I think the patience is most important. Patience and creativities. I think there's two things, like patience and creativities make these kids listen to you, and make even adults, like when I train, I pick like the hardest jobs. I coach KHL team, the oldest kids, and now as youngest kids. So for them, for all, the patience and creativity is a huge role for develop these players.
And when it comes to your kind of goals coaching, kids that age, is it about winning? Is it about fun? Is it just about skills development and, being a better player by the end of the season? What are the things that you focus on? And are those things the same things that the parents are interested in, or are those things different priorities?
I think in this age, I think it's important you actually have fun to win. That's a goal. I think it's not just have fun. It's not just like win. It's have fun to win. So that's mean like you enjoy the game and enjoy these wins, the moments, because the kids understand. The kids, after we lose first 3 games or whatever, we sit in the room, the kids like they don't want to say like happy something. They're not like they know it. I don't even tell them like you guys. I tell them good job, like, but they know themselves because they love the games and they love the win. So they will learn themselves. So make sure like I make sure no one yell at them and say like you need to win or that's it. You don't go not do anything. So do process, focus on process, have fun, and have fun to win.
You mentioned Cooley for a minute there. Obviously reminds me back of the Russian hipster video that you did with Cooley and him trying on those skinny jeans with those massive legs, and kind of always called Cooley a thoroughbred with just, the genetics he was blessed with is kind of the size. And you mentioned that maybe he wasn't pushed as hard, but maybe, genetics helped balance that and making it equation. When you look at your time with the Leafs, obviously there was really something there with you, Cooley, and Clarkie MacArthur. You guys had a line that got, a ton of press. You guys were picking up a lot of points. What do you think it was that was so special about your guys' connection and what made you guys click on the ice?
It's a good memory playing with these guys. For me, it's always remember like the best time in my career. I think that's what's click. I think is Clark, a really smart player, really like good playmaker. And I think that's what I always look in during my career, the player who actually can play for me, like pass, go, like, you make a play, then you get open and give you back. It's not a players in my career like can do that. And Clark is this exactly guy who's understand how to play, like, it's not a Russian hockey, but maybe more like line hockey. When you get open, you have a pass back. And Cooley is always a guy who's protected us to play defense pretty good, so he can always help back. That's what makes this line successful, and the coach trusts us. And it's a good memory to be a second line in the NHL that year. So it's really excited. So I wish we keep that line for longer time, but changes always.
You imagine that Grabo was playing today in today's NHL, and you could just wave your magic wand and get yourself a left winger, a right winger, a top D pair, and a goaltender. Who are those, guys that you would choose to give you the best shot of winning the cup?
Well, that's a hard question. I think for sure I will play with the Kaprizov, defenseman probably Orlov, probably play with Ovi or Backstrom. So it's hard to say. Like honestly, like I don't know.
Just so you're aware, I'm going to use AI to edit your answer to say Ilya Sorokin is the goalie you want to play with.
Okay. Ilya
Yeah,
Sorokin is the goalie for sure.
there you go.
They asked me like, who's do you think the best goalie? I actually say Sorokin. Defenseman, I think Hughes. Forward, McDavid. Rocky, I picked this guy from the Phoenix. What's his name there? Cooley.
I have another question kind of similar to that. So from your playing days, who was the hardest working teammate you ever had?
I don't know, maybe in Toronto. Saku Koivu. I think I played with Saku Koivu a little bit. I think he's pretty hard working. You see, there's too many years behind, so I don't remember now. I think I'm cooler than me, the hardest working for sure. I think everybody who played, they work really hard. So it's most of the fighters, actually the guys who's not play much, they work hardest. They work usually in the gym like insane.
And I know a lot about the things that you go through in your day-to-day. Diet is something whether you're really on top of watching what you're putting in your body or you're really regretting what you're putting in your body. It's such an important part of your pursuit of, having a great day and being as productive as you can be. So talk a little bit about that and how that's changed. I would imagine, back when you were playing, it was a little bit different where players weren't as worried about what their pregame meal was. And talk a little bit about why you think that today it's so important for you to kind of be on top of things that you put into your body.
Well, growing in a family where it's like organic food always in your table, and many years when I grew up, I think I had good food in my house and my table. So I think I brought this through all my career. So I never eat like junk food. Like I like to eat like a healthy organic food, and sometimes you enjoy it to go out and eat like pizza or whatever. But if you eat good pizza, it's not that bad for you, right? So it depends. Then when you're a kid, you always drink pops too. Like yes, I did for sure, especially like the pops. You guys never drink probably. You guys send us to Russia this American product. So we like poison ourselves like many years, and we like it because we kids, we enjoy it. This is tasty. It's lots of sugar. And then when you came play actually as an NHL, lots of players in my time already start care about the food. Like what they eat, like, and lots of vegetarian in my team. So I have guys who don't eat even meat. So that's really like surprised me kind of. But some players eat like a junk food before the games, lots of fat food. I think for everybody's diet is different. But nowadays, when you eat bad food, you feel crappy next day, and you feel like it's hockey so get better, get faster, get stronger. So if you don't eat right, you're going to be slower than somebody else. Why you can add it to your game something more than just like practicing on the ice and then go and work out. So you can add some little things like eat right. So we'll see, maybe that will help you score another extra goals, right? So say like everybody say like, oh, like he eat bad, like, but I don't think so. He eat like a good food when he needs to eat a good food. When he needs to eat like a beer after the game, he eat beers. I think life change. I think the sport get more professional. I think soccer example, like more above any other sports. I think we pick lots from soccer because they always have even chefs in the teams. And when I play, we don't even have like meals before the game's good one. So sometimes it's meals so bad we go to the restaurants eat the food. But nowadays, I think like everybody have like good food and dietitian in the team, and I think it's important.
You had a front row seat to arguably one of the most spoken about pregame meal players in the league history is, Phil the Thrill, Phil Kessel. I know you know Phil pretty well, and you guys would have quite the epic ping pong battles in the locker room. Obviously, diet aside, whatever he's doing seems to work because, look at the career that he's put together, an Iron Man streak. If he is truly eating the hot dogs that people are saying he's eating, it's, worked well for him. And I don't know whether that's a nature of just genetics, but talk a little bit about the career that Phil's put together and your thoughts kind of as a teammate and the cups that he's won and all the things that he's accomplished.
Well, the Phil is Phil, right? He's known by eating like a junk food, and that junk food sometimes is everybody think it's help, but there's not a junk food help him. He's has good genetic. He born like this, like he's so calm what he do, right? So he's strong like a bear. but how long you gonna have this whatever enzymes in his body to be healthy for the rest of his life? Well, it's help for him that time, right? Just make him calm, so he's never like stressed. He's play calm, but he's not 100%. I know he's gonna eat this all his rest of his life like this, right? Some days you say that's it, like I want to be healthy, I want to eat healthy. So it's kind of this my theory, like why you need to eat healthy if everything works when you don't eat healthy. It's only like you need to think about when you retire, when your career is over. So I started healthy when I have problems with my stomach. Like I eat usually everything, but then I will have problems in my belly and I start looking at my diet.
So you mentioned how like a lot of pro teams now have chefs and they have nutritionists and everything, and you didn't have access to that. So when you made the decision to start kind of like really watching what you were eating, how'd you go about figuring out what the right diet for you would be?
Well, I researched a lot of stuff. So I actually hired a chef in California when I trained. The lady is like a personal chef. She come to my house, she cook food for me. Like she know about like all this nutrition, about like how much you need it, and she's a great chef. And many 10 years I use her in California for whole months to prepare my body for the long season. So that's personally helped me a lot. I build my muscle and I play like enough games to NHL say like it's work for me.
And is it harder to stay on track with the diet now that you're not playing?
I think this is hard now because we hear lots of issues with inflammation as it came from some certain food, like with your body don't like it. I wake up sometimes with headaches, so like not all the time, but lots of time. And knowing that, like I work with nutrition who tell me don't eat dairy, don't eat like gluten, and I know that, but it's just so hard sometimes to follow this when you retire and when you actually want to enjoy your life. It's impossible to follow that all the time, but I try my best, try like eat healthy, like try eat organic food. And
especially when you've got the kids wanting you to roll up to the Tim Hortons drive-through to get hockey cards every day.
I know that's like the one of my weaknesses, to go to Tim Hortons with them and make sure they're happy and buy them hockey cards, and then I come home and my wife yelling at me, say you again go to Tim Hortons.
Actually, speaking about kind of your post-playing career for a minute, I was reading this quote from you when you were announcing your retirement, and you said, I decided for myself that staying at home is not the best option. I need to do something. And that's something that like really resonated with me, because I know like I can't sit still. If I sit still, I'm going to get myself in trouble. I'm going to eat crap food. I'm going to get inside my own head. So you've definitely stayed busy in your retirement between coaching and your like what you're doing on the business end of stuff. So what are some of the things that you're working on now? Like I know you're about to launch Nitro Hockey in a little bit, right? Can you talk a little bit about what Nitro Hockey is going to be?
Yeah, so for me it's stay home too and do nothing. It's killing. So I want to always move, and like I can't even sit sometimes in the office and do some office stuff because it's like I need to like keep moving my body. I think all the best decision in my hockey drills or whatever I make come from the walking with the dog like around the lake. So that's where my creativity came. Nitro Hockey, yes, I try organize now like my private coaching training for any ages, like kids, adults, pro players. Use my old knowledge, what I know from playing NHL, and create the system of drills of the game situation when the people can learn.
I know Adam Oates always described you as his first private skills student once he kind of got into the private consulting world that he plays in now. Talk a little bit about Oatesy and what makes Oatesy a unique character. I think a lot of the players he works with are maybe not that publicized, but I know he's got a heck of a roster of some of the best players in the world that are leaning on him for private skills consulting. Talk a little bit about Oatesy and what makes him a unique character.
Yeah, Oates is like, I think I'm lucky to actually have time work with him in Washington, and I think lucky to learn about his coaching methods, and he is unbelievable. Like some players who play NHL right now, I can see how they play, and I can see that the Oates work with them. Like all this like the little like movements and change directions and like puck protection, all that stuff like came from him for sure. I wish I can have him in my beginning of my career and work with him in a longer time, because I can say he's like a genius. So lots of his ideas I try to reflect in my coaching, his knowledge, his vision, and my drills. That's why I actually start coaching like this. I think that's my quotes. I think like, how are you going to be coach? How are you going to teach the players how to play or whatever? It's all the same, like, but it's not. So spend time with him, I find completely other part of hockey and how you can play better doing some certain stuff like you don't even realize.
And if you could take one thing that you learned from Adam Oates that you would say is like the most important thing that you applied as a player and now as a coach? What would you think that would be?
I think the know your body, how your brain connects to your body. So connection between brain and your body. Muscles is not important. Your brain, your signals, your skeleton. That's what let you do the best.
When you look at personal skills coaching, which has become such a big thing, one thing I'd love to get your thoughts on, or obviously we're living in a world where everyone's talking about artificial intelligence, and it's gone well beyond a buzzword where there are real AI tools that are impacting all kinds of different categories. I know on our Flux 88 business, we use it for, creative projects and in many ways in the day-to-day of the business. The business that we are in, School U, works with Tom House Sports, one of the, renowned private skills coaches in the world, worked with Brady and Breeze, and arguably the world's expert on biomechanics when it comes to rotational sports. I know that for a number of years, they've been building out AI-based online platform called Mustard that is kind of democratizing access to elite skills coaching, where now, artificial intelligence will help analyze the data points of someone's, motion patterns, which I think is really, really interesting. And when you look at kind of where hockey's already been going over the last few years with advanced analytics, the folks that are analyzing all kinds of data, I imagine that AI is just going to infuse a cycle of steroids into what was once advanced analytics, where it's going to be less just really smart geniuses that are going over all of the data points to kind of make those decisions, where there will be a lot of support from AI. What are your thoughts on what artificial intelligence might do to sport and the opportunities that might bring, or the way that might change coaching?
Definitely is common. You can see that. And I think I started thinking about this long time ago when I actually play in Islanders, and maybe it's a little different, but it's almost same, like the whole system, all the stats. The guy who work in the statistics in our team, he always send me information about my game, like how many pucks I took it. So I completely analyze your game, how you play, what position you need to be. And then that statistics is my game is perfect. I should play 20 minutes a game. So that I still think the computer actually analyze my game better than coaches, because I look at all my puck battles, position, how much I skate with the puck is. So for me, I always doesn't look 100% in statistics, but I believe in this. I believe this. I bring some best coaches information and knowledge, and they can create a better player, And if Adam Oates will share all information with a computer, and then the computer can help some other kids who he don't allow to work with, or they don't have time to work with some other kids, right? So it'll be helpful for everybody. I think it's a plus for the players and plus for the board.
You mentioned battles. You're not known as a fighter, but obviously you're a player that played with a lot of grit. But you do have one fight on your NHL belt card. Talk a little bit about that fight, how you were feeling, because I don't know if all the listeners know, but you went toe to toe with Chris Neil, arguably one of the biggest fighters of the time. I think he had over 200 NHL fights in his career, and this is kind of you stepping up for your first fight in the show. Talk a little bit about what was going through your head while you're dropping the gloves with Chris Neil.
Yeah, I think it's a type of person who honestly don't care who you fight with. I think at that moment I play, I think 6 to 7 minutes a game. No, not 6, maybe 10 minutes a game. And I'm so angry, because I don't play enough. And then that situation just caused more the angriness. And the guy pushed Fraten. And he's a young guy, so I just stand up for him and try. I don't care who I fight with whatever, it's just I want to get this angriness from me. And that situation really worked. It's only the problem I forgot, I don't never tuck my jersey, to my shirt. So they kick me out from the game because I really never fight. So it's only situation it's happening where I get really angry. And my angriness came again, it's from the completely different emotion, don't play enough. Maybe I don't never fight to control my emotion, and if I'm happy, right? So I think fights came sometimes was the angriness or something, or you fighter, you fight because it's your job. So my situation, I just angry in completely different situation. I think I didn't last that fight. So I probably even, and I'm proud of myself. So I fight against good fighter. So at least once time in NHL.
And I know you weren't a fighter in your career, but that's something that's interesting too, is if you got the enforcers on the team, when they're looking at training, do you have any insight in how they approach training as somebody who's focused more on the physical side and fighting, as opposed to someone who's more a skill-based player?
Well, I think like honestly, I think the old fighters, I think they wants to be good players too. So they train like same as everybody. They train skills like, and for me, it's like the fighter who's actually a good fighter, he's a big good player. So if you see the guy from Detroit, like McCarty, like he's one of my favorite because he can fight and he can play. So that's why I look like this fighters more like they learn from the playing around like Larionov, Fedorov, and Heiserman, whatever that era, like he get better himself. So I think fighters like try like do everything what the skills players do, plus they added like special like training, like because they know they need to protect themselves. So they hire probably coaches who can teach them like in boxing, and off season they train with the like UFC fighters, or so they needs to know the other stuff too, right? So
There's been a lot of talk ever since Malcolm Gladwell came out with his Outliers book, where he was pointing out that there just seemed to be a disproportionate amount of players that make it in the NHL who are born early in the year, the first 3 months of the year, because they're, he'd say, 20% stronger, bigger, more developed. Obviously, your birthday is close to the top of the year. You benefit from being, born in January and playing against some kids that might have been almost a whole year younger than you. Your kids are all December birthdays. So, all three of your kids are born in December. What do you think about Malcolm Gladwell and the thought on, is it a big advantage? Do you see it with your kids where they're playing against kids that are potentially 11 months bigger, stronger, older than they are?
well, for sure, it makes a sense, right? Like when you play, like you're always like behind. So it's, but in my career, like I growing up, I play with players who's actually older than me. So I'm the youngest one, and I always like physically like behind. But I always have support from coach who's actually trust me. Like I can play last minutes of the game, and every time he put me in the ice with the best player when we want to win the game. So I'm like a third in statistic in the team and I play in the third line. But in the end of the game, I play in the first line. So he helped me. So when I'm 12, some other coach came and he looked at me and said, "Oh, he's not strong enough to play in this age. It doesn't matter how many goals you score. You do only like 3 chin-up." And I'm like, he needs to go back to his own age. And they kicked me out and put me in my own old my age group. And since then, I play with my age group. And that coach who's actually kicked me out, he come back to the same team again and put me in the third line again. So it's like kind of, I believe in that, but I believe in support people around. If you're born in December and everybody's know like you're a little behind, but you still have like genetically good skills, good vision, you can tell right away like the kid, if you're born in December, younger, and he have better vision, better sense understanding in hockey. Why he just needs to be developed, needs to be around like the people who can support that, help him. And so it's I believe in him, but I still more believe not in 1,000 hours. I believe in a genetic. Like I believe in genetic. You already supposed to have something, vision, eyes. If you don't born with like eyes, it doesn't matter how many hours you train, you're really never gonna see the eyes like when the people who's genetically like born with a good vision. That's why I like it's called book like a smart gene or something like this. I more believe in that.
Yeah, and if we bring that back to artificial intelligence, as we start really analyzing people's genomes when you're growing up and choosing what to help encourage your kids to do, like there definitely is a genetic predisposition to being good at things. And, there are things that ultimately are not within our control that our genes play such a big role in. I imagine that, when you take genomes and genetic testing and you kind of marry that with power of artificial intelligence to analyze that data. I've got a couple of young kids, a 4-year-old and an almost 8-month-old. And I imagine, we're going to have a lot more data to help us encourage our kids and make the decisions that, one, they're passionate about. You always want there to be that love, but also the things where they're predisposed to success. And I think like that's happened a little bit more just by happenstance where athletes are playing and they love it. And, you see the genetics come out where they've got the vision, they've got the skills, they've got the ability to take their body to that next level. But I do think it's going to be an interesting time where I think genetics plays a big role, but I think married with AI is going to play a massive role over the coming generations of hockey players.
For sure. I think it will be huge. And sometimes even me, I think about like do this test and check like genetically what my kids, if they're athletes or not. But then I stop myself for some reason and just say like, no, it's too late already. Let's just do whatever they can do. So we'll see. So it's a little bit dangerous. Like even tell your kids after that. So you're not gonna be like a hockey player. You just be like a musician or whatever, right? But it makes sense for sure.
And no one wants to hear that, like, you don't have control, that no matter what you do, you can't. The old fashioned, like, you can be anything you want to be to a point, to a degree. I don't think no matter how hard I could have worked, I don't know that genetically I was ever going to, have a chance of living the life that you lived as a pro athlete. And I think that's just the realities for, certain individuals.
It just, again, came to love the game, right? Came to the love what you do. In my situation, I'm always like a smaller one, like always, like I don't have enough like power, like even like playing NHL, like I'm not the biggest guy. Like I know, like I will be top for sure in the top like 100 players in my age if I have more like a muscle. Like my bench press is like disaster. Like even when I play NHL, if I don't train, like I still have a limit. Like I always train, but I go to the limit when I can jump up this limit. I always came to the camp, I still weaker than anyone, and is nothing to change. But I always love to game, and that kind of love to game helped me be a successful like a player.
You obviously come from one of the smaller, hockey nations. Belarus isn't the biggest breeding ground for NHL players. Small country. You, looking back at the history books, obviously the highest scoring NHL player to ever come out of Belarus. At what point in your hockey development did you really believe and understand that you had a shot of becoming a pro player and, making it to North America and playing in the NHL?
I never like fully like believe I can play, like not believe, I believe always, but I never like think it can be true. I always scared to don't make it, like always scared. Oh, like I look at the TV, I remember Edmonton play in the final against Carolina, I think they play or something. I look at these guys, they have like huge beards like this, and like how I can play this. I'm like such a small guy, like with my like baby face, how I can play NHL? There's no way I can play. But then it's like you wake up next day and you like go training, can you play? Like I think that year when I played in KHL, again when it's lockout year and all NHLers play St. Louis, like Cavalier, they can play to the Russian league. And when I play against them, I just in that moment I say that's it, I can play. Because the Datsuk play, and I like remember I played so hard against Datsuk. I want to like actually like kill him in that game. Because I say like if I actually gonna play hard against this guy, for sure will be playing NHL. That's what came into my head that game. And you remember that time, like Sus this little prick, like play like Marchand and go like try kill me. And then I realized I can go have a chance to play.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point too. When you've got big dreams, like something like playing professional sports, it's like obviously the big picture is what you're aiming towards, but you have to take everything day by day. You got to look at your day-to-day progress and benchmark along the way, because otherwise I think it gets to be too daunting, especially if you're, in a similar situation to where you weren't 100% sure that you had the physical gifts. You were a little bit smaller, living in a nation that wasn't necessarily just pumping players out into the NHL. Like if you just looked at it like that, looked at a big picture, you might be thinking like, oh, maybe it's not worth the effort, but you looked at it day to day, you pursued your love of the game and you just worked as hard as you could, and it got you where you needed to be.
Yeah, I think it's you're right, because I think for me, I remember like every single day, I just likes to go to practice, likes to like play the hockey game, likes to like enjoy the whatever after the game and go with friends and like hang out. So it's never think about like today I need to like make it or to make it. So you just enjoy the moments and you have your goals and you keep going and keep going. I always have the goal like play in KHL, I make this goal. Then after KHL play in NHL, came to Montreal, didn't make it right away, have like in the first game injury, send me down to the Hamilton, playing Hamilton a little bit, still thinking about the NHL, how many goals I need to score to play NHL, and it's kind of like a life journey. And I think this really like relate to my relationship with people who is around me. Like I always appreciated like all these people who is in Russia with me, who is like in Montreal. I think that's part of my growing up rock and roll life, kind of, I say, like, and they all helped me through like some moments of my life, my career.
So guys, we're running out of time here. I just want to thank you guys both for being on here. This was a great interview, a lot of great insight. I think a lot of our listeners are going to really take a lot out of it. So just thank you very much for being here. Is there anything in closing you guys want to say to our listeners?
Don't stress too much, eat good food, enjoy the winning, and go to sleep early. Thanks for inviting me. Really appreciate it.